Hey guys, it's Rich Boy J here back in with another video, and this is going to be update number 10 on the Vardos MOC build series. I'm so glad that this update happened to be number 10 because I feel that this is the biggest update we've had thus far with this MOC, and I'm sure you can tell behind me part of what I build is literally going past the top of the camera, so hopefully that's a good sign for you guys. Before I get into the bulk of the video, I do want to say thanks to those who donated via Super Chat on this week's live stream. Shout out to Screemin Seagull and Henry Barreras. You guys are so awesome for doing that. And for those of you who are watching this right now and haven't seen one of the live streams, I definitely urge you to come check it out. It's a great time for you guys to not only get a sneak peek at the MOC, but also to hang around with a bunch of guys and some girls possibly, and just talk about Lego Star Wars. So moving forward, this week I got done a ton of progress on the MOC, namely with the big tower sitting behind me. I was super excited to finally get to work on it because I know I've been saying from week to week to week that I'm going to start on it, and you guys have been asking about it so frequently. So it was very gratifying to actually be able to get some of that done and be able to show it to you guys. And this update is coming out a little bit late, and that's literally just because I wanted to get the building finished. I thought about just filming it and having the video out on time, but the building was not finished, and I wanted to complete it just to give you guys the full scope of what it's going to entail. So that's all I really got to say at the beginning of the video. Let's jump right into the MOC, guys. Now, as I'm sure you guys can tell, I have made a ton of progress on the MOC, namely this building right here, and I just love the way that it turned out. I'd estimate maybe a little over 2 feet, possibly closing in on like 3 feet tall if you look at it to the highest point, and it's a lot taller than I honestly thought it was going to end up being. But once I started kind of looking at the game and how it scales with everything else, I could tell that it was one of the taller buildings in the game, so it was worth making this one pretty big. I don't think that the other buildings like over here are going to match it quite in height. In fact, those will probably be half the size, but it is nice to finally have a really tall building because I really do think that it's helping contribute towards the Vardos aesthetic insofar as like it's not just a landing platform. There are like buildings and lights and all that types of stuff going throughout the MOC, and I'm glad I was able to accomplish it. I'm honestly not even sure where to start with this thing. I went through a few different design ideas for it, specifically with this side of it. I at first was just going to make this side just gray bricks going all the way up because that really is what it is. But then I decided to take a closer look at the reference material, and I realized that it's like beveled on this side, kind of like it is up top. It's the same way back around this side of the building, so I was like, you know what, I'm not going to be lazy. I'll go ahead and design it the way it should look. And I think it actually turned out pretty well. Like, I think that the design is cool because it's very unique, obviously. It kind of has... it's not like anything else you really see in Star Wars, so I like that. It gives Vardos its own kind of identity and its own look. But also, this was pretty interesting to design. What I essentially ended up doing was, obviously, these bricks on the sides are just kind of built straight up, conventional Lego style building. But this entire assembly right here is just bricks on the side. I considered a few things to be able to kind of recreate the step kind of aesthetic right there. And what I ultimately came up with was just using bricks and stacking them like stairs, like you would kind of have right here, but then turning them on their side, and then that actually is how it is on both sides of the building, and it really makes the thing look pretty freaking cool from this side. When I was actually like looking at the building in the game, and I found out that this was kind of replicated up here. It really does make me think that like in the game they like designed the building and then they just duplicated it and flipped it around and put it on top of it to make it look a little bit more unique, which, you know, I guess it worked out pretty well because this building does actually look very unique and very cool, so I'll give them that. One thing you guys are going to notice is that I have these white tiles on the sides of the buildings, and those are actually supposed to replicate the Imperial style lights, and you can see that those are kind of right there if you don't know exactly what I mean by when I say Imperial style lights. But I'm missing some of the pieces to kind of round them off. They're the like Mixel tooth pieces. You can see on the other side I was able to snatch some off of a few sets I had, namely the porgs. So not the big porgs. The big porgs are still fully intact, but the little minifig sized porgs, I had to snatch those off of their stomachs. But that'll give you guys a pretty good idea of like what that's supposed to look like. And all in all, I think it's a good piece. I'm glad that it exists now because I can I think kind of recreate those lights without having them look too boxy, but kind of recreate the round look that they have. So I'm gonna have to put in an order for those to get those completed, but that's just an look at what those are actually supposed to look like. One of the biggest challenges with designing this building was kind of doing the two separate sides of it. In the game, these buildings are connected. You can see that like this part and then the bigger part on the other side of it. They have two very different looking designs, and that's kind of how it is in the game. You can see if I have my guy staring at it, that's supposed to be that side right there, and then right behind it is that building. They are connected, but in the game there's a little bit more. This building is a little bit more offset from it. I just wasn't able to do that with the space that I had for the MOC. But yeah, one of the hardest parts of it was just figuring out how they were going to flow together in a way that made them both look good and made it look like they both belong next to each other. And I do think that I was able to accomplish that pretty well. One of the things I do actually really like are the windows down here. I think that there aren't really a ton of windows on a lot of the really big buildings on Bardos, so being able to incorporate windows in the buildings, I think, just made it look a little bit more recognizable as a building, and our buildings here on Earth look like that. So it helps it look a little bit more recognizable, which I do appreciate. And I'm gonna get you guys another view of this thing from the other side. And one of the other things that was very challenging about this build was really just getting a lot of the angles together. These buildings aren't just big squares like most of our normal skyscrapers, but obviously like there's a lot of angles, as you can see up there on that side and then down here on the other side. So I had to put in a lot of thinking. So I had to put in a lot of thought into figuring out like how these were not only going to work and connect to each other, but also just how to make sure that they were going to be structurally sound. And it ended up working pretty well on both of those accounts. I've like moved the buildings around. They don't seem like they're going to fall over or anything like that. So very happy about that. And another thing I wanted to kind of highlight is that they have these like lights on the top of them, and I did actually get those wired. So in a second, I'm actually going to turn off all the lights like I seem to be doing every update now, and show you guys what this thing looks like when it's illuminated. You can see I have just these tons of wires running from the inside of that building. I'm going to have to figure out a creative way to get those covered up, like weaving underground. But I have all the confidence in the world I'll be able to figure that out. But really, guys, that's pretty much it for the update. I spent so much time working on this building, trying to get it as close to what it looks like in the video game as possible, and I think that I accomplished that. Anyone who has played the game and spent more than like a few seconds looking at the buildings will definitely recognize what's going on here. And I'm just so happy that this building is finally here. Like I said, I think it really does help kind of recreate the Vardos aesthetic. And then if I pull back, it doesn't look like it's just a landing platform now, but there's also like a city kind of element to this MOC, which is very exciting. I feel moving forward, once more of these buildings start getting constructed, it'll look even closer to Vardos, which excites me a lot. So now I'm going to go ahead and turn off the lights in the room. I'm going to turn on the lights in Vardos, and you guys will get to see what this baby looks like when it's fully illuminated. And here is Vardos under the lights. One of the things I love the most about having these lights is, and especially the ones on the buildings, is that looking at it now, it literally just looks like a miniature city, and I feel like I'm like peering out of the window of a helicopter or an airplane or something and staring at some sort of city just because of the lights. They just add so much liveliness to the MOC, and it really does just make me so happy to finally see this thing with a building in it, because Vardos is pretty well characterized by the building. So now that it's not just a flat landing platform, but instead there's a lot more depth to it. It's a very tall MOC at this point. I think I can actually, you guys can see there, that's one of the porgs over there. That's, by comparison, like the building is dwarfing the porg. So the MOC is pretty tall at this point, which is great because, I mean, I can only imagine just how tall that big tower over there is going to be. Like, if this one is this tall, I imagine that big tower will probably be double that height, so it might get close to the ceiling of this room, which It's crazy to think about, but hey, I think it'll look pretty freaking cool whenever I get to get it built up and have all the lights appearing from that as well. So I really do hope that you guys like this. I spent so much time working on this building, rebuilding it, trying to make sure that it looked as good as possible, and I think that I did a pretty good job on it. So this is the bulk of the update, and I really do hope you guys let me know what you think about it. I would love to know your input on this thing, and there's another look at it from the other side, and the lights just really make this thing pop. I'm really thinking that this might be, if not the best MOC I've ever made, definitely one of. Just the fact that not only am I incorporating the lights, which obviously help a lot, but it's really unlike anything I've ever built. You know, most of the other MOCs like Scarif and Crate were both, for the most part, natural landscapes with obviously Scarif had the big Citadel tower, but this one is like literally all urban, so everything here is obviously man-made, which means that I have to put in a lot more thought into what I'm building. Like, it isn't, I don't have the luxury of just kind of, you know, thinking, oh, what does sand look like? Okay, I'll build that. It's like, no, I need to see what this very specific area of the MOC looks like in the video game to recreate it as close to what it's supposed to look like as possible. So that's really going to finish up the video, guys. I'll give you another pulled back look at the MOC under the lights, and then we'll go ahead and move to the closing segment of the video. And that's going to finish up the update video this week, guys. I really hope that you enjoyed the building. I put so much time and effort into not only getting it built, but then also making sure that it was as close to the video game as possible, as I'm sure you guys can see when I showed off the screen over there. So let me know what you think about it. I'm, for one, a huge fan of it. I think that I was really concerned with just how I was going to just design it overall, because it's not the easiest thing in the world to have to like look at the video game to get reference material, especially when the game only lets you go to certain areas, so you have to be very creative and like where you can stand to be able to get actual good looks at the building. But I'm glad I pulled it off, and we got so many more buildings to go. On the downside, I used up so many of my dark gray bricks working on that, which is totally understandable. Like, I've obviously used a plethora of dark gray bricks in this MOC, which means that I need to go buy some more a lot sooner than I was hoping I would have. But hey, I think that it's all working out. It's all going towards a good cause, so I'm not too disappointed by that. Next week, I'm really hoping to be able to finish the little courtyard that's like right behind that building. So not only on this side, but also right behind it. So you'll have the little area where Inferno Squad walks up the stairs and they go by all the citizens being apprehended by the Empire. So I'm hoping I can get that fully finished and you guys will be able to see that. Also, I think I'm finally going to start working on the other side of that door or wall over there. It's way overdue. I've been kind of having it propped up by some bricks, and I'd like to have it actually placed in its final position just so I can know how I'm going to design the other side moving forward with the MOC. But that's going to finish up the video That's going to finish the video this week, guys. I really hope that you enjoyed it. Like I always say, if you like what I do, go ahead, support the video by smashing the like button, and support the channel by smashing that subscribe button. And I'll be back again very soon.